When my wife and I imagined our life in New York City, we imagined getting these high-paying New York City jobs, living in a trendy neighborhood, and going out to cool restaurants. Yeah. By the time we moved here with the dog and the baby, life in New York City definitely wasn't the way we imagined it. But we are still living our dreams here in New York City. It's just costing us a little more. No, let me rephrase that. It's costing us a lot more. This is what it costs to raise a family in New York City.
The cost of living in New York City has skyrocketed.
Rent is rising faster than income.
A single adult needs to make more than about $138,000, and a family of four needs more than about $318,000.
Rent is too damn high.
It is an absolutely gorgeous day in New York City. Definitely. What the is that? Spring vibes. Okay, so clearly I had some smudge on my lens that I didn't catch until I started editing. So what I was trying to say in that segment is that one, it was an absolutely beautiful spring day in New York City, and that with spring comes that time of year where you have to do your taxes. And while you're doing your taxes, you might also wonder where your money went. So in this video, I'm gonna go through our last month's expenses, which will hopefully give you a sense of how expensive or what it actually costs to live with a family here in New York City. Obviously, this is not financial advice. This is just a peek into how we've spent our money in one particular month. With that said, there's definitely ways you can live more lavishly and spend a lot more money than we do here in New York City. And there's definitely items in this budget where it's just like, okay, yeah, you probably could use to cut back on some of those things. For example, last month I spent $160 on manchego cheese and prosciutto. It is so good. Do I need to cut back? Yes, but do not judge me. This is not a video about how to save money. So let's start with the two biggest expenses on just about any family's budget: housing and childcare. Oh my God, that's good. Now, before I give you the actual number, let me know in the comments what you think a 2-bedroom apartment in Manhattan costs. Now, when most people imagine an apartment in New York City, they probably imagine a tiny shoebox apartment in an old walk-up building with windows that all face a brick wall. Luckily for us, we found an incredible apartment that was a reasonable price in a great neighborhood with walkable access to almost anything and almost anywhere in Manhattan. And the walkability alone is worth the dollars we spend on rent every single month. I think I may have just found the quietest spot in all of New York City. Oh, that's nice. Okay, but I digress. As for childcare, our monthly fixed cost is $3,420. Transportation. Now, this is one of the beauty things about living in New York City. Transportation costs are minimal. We live in a place that is very accessible. We can walk almost anywhere. So we're walking about 90% of the time. So with that said, there are some transportation costs because I do have to go to the office a couple days a week. So I do take the ferry a couple days of the week plus subways. And then on the weekends, exploring different boroughs and stuff like that, you end up taking the subway. So just subway costs, commuting costs, that comes to $43.50. We'll occasionally rent a car on the weekends to visit some family in New Jersey or just explore the surrounding areas. So last month that came to $60.67. That included the rental costs, parking, tolls. So in total, our transportation costs last month, which is a pretty average month, came to about $104. The biggest question that I get about living in the States is with regards to the cost of healthcare. Obviously, being from Canada and Ontario, we just never had to think about it, but you definitely got to think about it here. And there's just a lot of ways to set yourself up. If you're planning on moving here or thinking about moving here or just wondering what it costs, our annual insurance premiums for a family of 3 is $5,472. And that gets taken directly out of our paycheck, so it doesn't even really feel like a monthly cost, although it's definitely a thing. With that said, there are still some out-of-pocket costs with our healthcare plan. And when you go to a doctor's visit, you gotta pay usually about 20 bucks. Last month, there was about $84 in healthcare, in out-of-pocket healthcare expenses. I am just killing it with the quiet spots today. Other than the fact that it's hard to find eggs at a reasonable price, and when you do find eggs in New York City, and maybe all of America right now, you're paying up to $8, although that's, you know, a little bit rare that we're paying $8 for eggs. Usually we're coming in around the $4 to $6 for the dozen. Other than that, the cost of food hasn't really increased for us since having a baby. Luckily, you know, and obviously this depends on your situation and your kid, and every kid is different. I'm not saying mine is better or worse or whatever, but for whatever reason, he never really took to eating baby food. He always wanted to eat the same food that we were eating. He's also started to develop an appetite for avocados, so definitely clutch having an extra mouth to beat the buzzer on avocado ripeness. We pay a $10 subscription fee to have our groceries delivered. One, it saves us a ton of time. So for $10, we can reclaim a ton of our time back every month. And two, it's just easier to have the groceries delivered than having to haul them from whatever grocery store, walking back to the apartment with heavy groceries. And then three, it helps us really plan our meals a lot better than we would if we were just walking around a grocery store when you're hungry. Because if you're like me, when you walk around the grocery store hungry, you end up putting things like Flaming Hot Cheetos and Lucky Charms in your cart. And I say that once they're in the house, there is only one way out, and that is, you know, this month we spent $905 on groceries. I think most people can probably cut back on eating out. I think last month we went a little bit overboard. I don't know if it was because the weather was bad and it was cold, and you know, we just didn't want to go out to get groceries and didn't want to wait for them to get delivered. We got caught between some awkward times, and you know, we were just hungry and didn't want to go outside, didn't feel like cooking. It's just the dead of winter, so maybe we ate out a little bit more than we normally would. Last month we spent a total of $1,150 just on eating out. $219 of that was on pizza. Do not judge me. $219 on pizza is definitely not a normal thing for us. Then we get to the boring costs. This is things like cable, internet, subscription fees, cleaning supplies, consumables, so all of that boring stuff. Luckily, our building has a deal with a local internet and cable provider, so we pay $54 a month for high-speed internet and cable every month. Our cell phone bills come to $83 for both of our lines, and that also includes some additional perks like Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN Plus, HBO Max, and that comes to $83 a month. We have some additional discretionary subscription services, and things like Spotify, Netflix, Gym Pass, you know, a bunch of others. All in all, cable, internet, cell phones, subscriptions, that comes to $396 a month. Baby and dog supplies. Now, these are together because baby and dog, they're essentially the same thing. All they do is poop and eat. Vito's dog food came to $88.91 last month. All baby related expenses, diapers, wipes, you know, those specialized garbage bags that go into his diaper genie thing. That came to a total of $137.28. So yes, if you're keeping score at home, I spent more money on pizza last month than I did on my baby. So other life things that just come along. Last month, I spent a little bit more on clothes than I normally would. And that's just because I had a business trip to Miami and I had to just replace some clothes and some shirts that were just ripped or just didn't fit on account of my pizza and manchego cheese addiction. We as a family spent $525 on clothes last month. Definitely not the norm, and probably won't see a number as high as that you know, for another 6 to 8 months. You know, things like grooming and personal care, those items came to about $513 last month. That was included things like I got a haircut. I think my wife got a haircut last month too. I think she also refilled on a bunch of stuff from Sephora. So again, not worried about that. That's not a regular thing. So the answer to the question, how much does a family of 3 humans and 1 dog spend in 1 month to live in New York City? Well, for us, once you add in our rent of $5,557, the grand total is $15,182. We're super grateful and super blessed to be able to live our dreams here in New York City. And, you know, it took a lot of very meticulous financial planning and you know, a lot went into getting us to where we are now. And we're so grateful for the way all of our life has sort of started to line up here in New York City. And it just really makes us feel like this was definitely the right decision for us. Now, should everybody move to New York City? Probably not. And it's probably, and everybody doesn't want to. So, you know, figure out where you want to live, what your dreams are, because when you're living in a place that you just truly feel at home, it's pretty awesome. So if that place is, if you're already living in that place, then good for you. And if you're not, then take concrete steps every day to get you to that place. I've heard it said once that if you don't tell your money where to go, you're going to wonder where it went. And I truly believe that. So figure out what you want to do, tell your money where to go, and start living your dreams.